This is the river. When I was a kid, my brother and I used to play by this river. We made boats for it and raced them. Later, when we grew up, I came back to visit, but it had stopped flowing and it was murky and brown. But it used to flow and carry our boats.
There was never a river here. It was a train track. I remember because I lived in the apartment block right next to it, and I could always hear that metal screeching. It really annoyed me at first, but now I can't sleep. I think I need the sound of the trains.
No, this is the canal. Me and my fiancé would walk our dog here. Apparently the water was toxic, so we had to keep her away from it. But it was beautiful walking here in the sunset. They had these lights to enhance the sunset so you could see it through the smog.
This tree was planted for my granddaughter. She was an environmental activist, and this tree was planted when she died. Underneath the tree there was a bench, and it had a plaque on it inscribed with the words, "We do not want a concrete world." My mum and I used to come back to the bench to clean the graffiti off the plaque.
It stood in the middle of the city, but it's a synthetic tree. The government got rid of all the organic trees, which was great because I had allergies.
And this is the hospital. It was where my first son was born.
I had my 3D ultrasound here, so that it could be loaded onto a hologram for my keychain, but it broke after a couple of months.
This is the artificial gardens. I'd come here on my lunch break. Sunlights would be here all year round, which helped my moods, especially when the summers got so short. They had their environment set to replicate the perfect seasons. I brought my nan with me a few times, and she said it was just like the old days.
I got made redundant from this office when my job was automated.
There was a crash on this road. I was on my way to work, made me late. Everybody turned off their automation, got out of their cars. I think that was the first time we'd all seen a crash of a self-driving car. Snowflakes wouldn't stop protesting after that. Had to stop taking that route.
My sister and I would play by this river, and we made boats for it and we raced them. And later, I came back to visit it, but it was...
It's a road. I remember the crash because I remember the driver crying. Plus, I had a really bad hangover, and the smell of all that hot rubber made me sick.
I worked on my own here as a transport engineer. I was sat in front of a screen all day, so to be honest, I was kind of relieved when I got made redundant that time.
It was at this clinic where I bought my first set of filtered lenses. They let you see everything in brighter colours. I used to go for long walks with the dog just to see how much better everything looked. At first it's mad. It all looked like a film. But you get used to it quickly. And that's when you need the add-ons, like film noir or autumn.
I liked going to this library. I never read the books, but the holographic stories were cool, and the holograms were mental if you got drunk.
I got made redundant from this school when they replaced all the teachers with screens and cameras.
This garden centre sold seasonal simulation trees. I bought one from their autumn range when it was released.
This motorway service was the last place I saw my parents. I thought there was a way they could interface with me once I'd uploaded. I didn't understand what it even meant. I shouldn't be here.
This artificial coastline was created in response to the rising sea levels. Personally, I sort of liked the whole sea levels issue. I mean, my two-bed house became a seafront property.
When I was a kid, my brother and I used to play by this river. We made boats for it and raced them. And then later, when I grew up, I came to visit it, but it had stopped flowing, and it was murky and brown. But it used to flow.
My
carry our
self-driving
boats.
car never recognised that this side road as an actual road, so I was always turning off the bloody automation anyway.
I used to meet dates at this clock tower. It was one of the last to be digitised, so it was a landmark that everyone knew. I dated a lot after my divorce. Until I realised it was a waste of fucking time.
This is the spa where I had my first cosmetic procedures. I had a breast reduction and an artificial iris transplant. Flat chests were on trend at the time, and I had always wanted blue eyes.
I used to take my nan to this multi-story zoo on the weekends. The top floors housed rare animals like bees and worms and rabbits, and she'd tell me about when you could find all of them in your back garden.
This is where they rebuilt the wall. My kids used to see how close they could get to it before chickening out.
My nan protested against the wall as a teenager. There was a picture that went viral of her and her partner kissing on top of the rubble. I remember her crying when people voted to have it rebuilt.
This is one of the wind farms that used to be around. They sort of stopped. We kind of stopped having wind. I don't remember what wind feels like.
When I turned 23, I bought my first e-beer in this pub. People said e-drinking would never catch on, but a few years later, they were all swigging from battery flasks.
This uploading consciousness clinic was built on the remains of oh, sorry, I don't remember.
I used to work at this club, the biggest gay club in the city. It was where I met most of my friends, more like family. And then it was attacked. I wasn't working that night. I uploaded a few months after that. I couldn't stay.
Me and my fiance used to live across from this building. It's covered in holographic billboards. It was so bright that our building gave out these specially designed blackout lenses for sleeping.
I worked on one of the highest floors of this building, in eco-damage management. I digitally controlled forest fires to direct them away from the town. It was really well paid, plus, if you lived near the fires, you could buy fancy outdoor lights that enhanced the smog and smoke. That's what I did. Looked great from the balcony.
I used to work in this school. It closed during the virus and never reopened. Then it became housing, sort of. After all the redundancies, people just started living there. Then I worked in this office before my last redundancy. I paid for the upload of my redundancy package.
I got made redundant from this office.
I got made redundant from this office.
I dated a woman who worked in this uploading clinic. She was transhuman. She was killed by humanity terrorists in broad daylight.
There's a huge holographic billboard on this building, promoting the automation of jobs as an early retirement for the human race. Humanity terrorists kept trying to attack it. It was a dangerous thing to live by, but I couldn't afford to move.
My friend Alice was the first person I knew who uploaded at this clinic. For a while, we'd walk past it and dream about living digitally. She said she was fed up of living in a world where you could get watches that monitor your blood pressure, get self-driving cars, but still couldn't get automatic ramps on public transport. Plus, imagine being bodiless. No calories to count, no chronic pain, and no men sending dick pics. Bliss.
I got my consciousness uploading card from this clinic. There were a load of forms I had to fill in. I just kept clicking accept, barely read most of it. Just the tagline of the whole thing. Think about that all the time.
I take full responsibility.
I take full responsibility and accept the consequences of this procedure.
I take full responsibility and accept the consequences of this procedure.
This is my parents' apartment. We lived in the city. We lived on the top floor, in this studio apartment.
And there were stairs in the apartment.
And there were these stairs. But it was on the top floor, so the stairs wouldn't have led anywhere. They would have just been decorative stairs. So...
And there was a table in the middle of...
And there was a tree. This is the tree in the middle of the apartment.
Yeah, okay. There was a tree. And sometimes the leaves from the tree would fall down onto the carpet.
I sat underneath this tree on the day of my girlfriend's funeral. She was attacked by humanity terrorists in broad daylight. I sat underneath this tree, carved her name on it. When the system fails, every tree has her name on it. The tree that I climbed with my dad when I was 7 has her name on it. The trees that lined the motorway on my way to work have her name on them.
This is the fireplace in the apartment. Me and my fiancé...